Hey everybody, it's still way too stormy to get down to the beach, so today I'm going to share some more of my favorite finds with you, but this time I'm going to focus on some that are non-glass. Since it's so cold outside, I'm going to start with this piece right over here. It was a couple of years ago, and I was out looking for tiny specifically for a project when I came across this big piece of ceramic. I gave it a look, but I couldn't figure out what it was. I knew there was just something very unique and different about it. So I put it in my backpack, kept picking, and then when I got home and I was done sorting all my pieces, I turned it around and around until finally I saw what it was. I noticed the belt at first right over here, and then it led me right up to the face, and that's when I realized that this was Santa Claus. It was unbelievable to me. This is probably the largest piece of ceramic that I have ever found in my life, and lo and behold, it's good old Saint Nick. What's really neat about this is about 8 days apart, I found that beautiful piece from the glass ashtray that I matched last week. You know, it's wild how many people down at the cruise ship pavilion would look at this shard and have no idea what it was until I pointed out the little belt right over here. It's almost like one of those old geometric posters that you had to let your eyes go across just so you could see what the image was. 9 out of 10 people that look at this next artifact think that it's an old bullet casing. It's only when I tell them to open it up where the secret reveals itself. Let me share that with you right now. Check that out, everybody. This is a tube of Rascal Red Pond's Lips lipstick from the 1950s. It's absolutely amazing to me that this thing survived out in the nature for so long. I usually attribute it to the fact that it's made out of brass you can see right over here and on the inside. A lot of the enamel has eroded down over the time, but you can see right over here the word Ponds, and underneath it, it would have said lips as well. Now I've got a few photos of this that I found off the internet, and I'll share them right over here. 10 cents for a tube of this lipstick 70 years ago. That must have been one of the best deals in town, even when you consider inflation. Look how striking this next find is, everybody. Yeah, that's right. It's the top of an old bowling trophy. I figure by looking at the clothing that this is mid-century, 1950s. At first when I found it, it looked like it was milk glass, but then upon further investigation, no doubt it's actually a piece of plastic. You can see the screw over here where it would have affixed to a wooden base, and I think it's kind of neat because you can see on the side of her face right over here, it's a little bit darkened, so it makes me think she was actually in a bonfire and somehow she survived, kind of like an escape pod. She went off of the wood into the ocean where she was nice and cool. The wood got burned in the fire, and then I found her. You can see right over here the wrist is really worn thin, so I'm really lucky that I found her when I did find her. I love her so much that there's a photo of her in my book, and every time I do a craft show, she sits on my right-hand corner. Look at this amazing little shepherd statue I have in my hand, everybody. This was the first significant thing that I found beachcombing, I remember back in 2009. And then a few years later, I gave it to somebody off my table as a token of friendship. Lo and behold, unfortunately for me, I saw it for sale in their store, and I was happy to pay the $44.95 plus shipping to get it back in my collection. A few years after the fact, I connected with the seller, and they assured me that they thought this was something they had found many years ago, and they'd forgot that it was something that I gave them. So there's no hard feelings, and now this shepherd comes with me anytime I'm speaking or doing a venue on sea glass. That's right, everybody, it's Papa's Smurf. I absolutely love this find over here because it doesn't matter how old you are, when you see it, you typically recognize who it is, and it gets a little giggle out of people. It's kind of amazing because I've looked at Smurfs all the way back to the 1950s to present day, and this one here is only about 30 years old. It would seem that the older Papa Smurfs, their feet are pointing straight, where the ones in the 1980s, they're kind of pointing outwards like this over here. You can see he's missing both of his arms and a leg, but there's a little bit of the beard that's sticking out. I remember hearing a song when I was younger called Lick a Smurf on Christmas Morning because some of these Smurfs were made with lead paint. I really hope this one isn't one of them because it's been in my collection for so long and I've been handling it a lot. Walking in the harbor of my small town sometimes, the layers of history get peeled back, and that can't be more true than for this find right over here. Now at first glance it kind of looks like it's the side of a shower curtain rod and it would go inside of the wall. But then after giving it a little bit of a closer examination, I noticed there's a patent date of November 25th, 1902, and on the other side it says 3 volts, 250 amps. It's absolutely amazing to think that this probably would have been the first fixture that somebody would have had in their house almost a century and a quarter ago, and how exciting it would have been to no longer have to rely on oil or kerosene to light your house. Now this little coin right over here is one of my all-time favorite finds, everybody. It's a St. Michael patron saint of remedy token. A few years after I found it, the stories were shared to me that a lot of fishermen in the 20th century would carry this for safe passage and almost as a good luck charm. So finding it on the shorelines and being that it's all corroded, it leads me to believe that there's a chance this could have been lost in one of the 25,000 shipwrecks that have occurred off of the coastlines of Nova Scotia. On the opposite side, you can see St. Michael over here, and he's providing comfort and remedy for a small little boy. In 2019, I was honored to be the special guest speaker at the Mermaid's Tear Sea Glass Festival out in Surrey, Prince Edward Island. It was there that I made a new friend who was eager to show me the old town dump. It was amazing just to see layers upon layers of old bottles just compressed upon each other. I made a few great finds that day, but nothing stood out to me more so than this piece right over here. The very next day, I was giving a talk on sea glass when I decided to share some of my neat new finds. Fortunately, there was a former RCMP officer in the crowd, and he recognized this as a slotted, heeled jack spur. He explained to me that this slot right over here was something that they wore for more ceremonial events as opposed to a riding spur, and therefore I knew the origins of this find. This is a case of being in the perfect place in the perfect time, because if he had not been there, I wouldn't be talking right now about this truly unique artifact that came out of the shorelines. Yo, Joe. That's right, everybody. It's a 1980s G.I. Joe action figure. I get an absolute hoot out of this guy over here because he was trained to fight some of the baddest dudes on the planet. They were taking down Cobra, and then as soon as he goes into the ocean and he has to do a little bit of swimming, he loses all of his appendages. Often I'm asked what my all-time favorite find is. Well, you're looking at it right over here, everybody. It's a tiny little hand, and that hand is holding a Bible. Now, for over a decade, I've hoped that I could match this to its origins, and I figure that the more people I share it with, the better the chances are that there's somebody out there that has the original statue in a curio cabinet tucked away nice and safely. You can see the little hole right over here in the wrist, which is indicative of ceramics, and there's a few little lines on the bottom side of the book. Hopefully you're watching right now and you actually have this at home in your curio cabinet, and you're going to help me match it to its origins. Here comes another one of my all-time favorite finds, everybody. It's kind of wild how it's another statue that seems to have lost its head out in the ocean. This one over here has been in my collection as well for over 10 years, and it really was the piece that set me on the path to sea glass archaeology, as it was the first significant match that I ever made. Lo and behold, it's little Bo Peep, and she's looking for a little bit more than her sheep out there. These little statues were made by Wade Ceramics out in England. I was talking to a friend over in the United Kingdom, and she told me this was something that you bought with your pocket money when she was younger. Out where I live, these little statues were given away in a box of red rose tea in the mid-century. Thanks for watching, everybody. Hopefully we're back on the shorelines again real soon.